Satnam Sri Vaheguru Sahib Ji. Satnam Sri Vaheguru Sahib Ji. Mukh uchara sastar khat ping giran char jai. And lakha badro suna jo kal kripa karai. Kaha buddh prabh tuchh hamari. Baran saka mahama jyotihari. हम न सकत कर सिफत तुम्हारी आप ले हो तुम कथा सुधारी हम न सकत कर सिफत तुम्हारी आप ले हो तुम कथा सुधारी गुरु प्यारी साध संगत जी गज गज के फतेह प्रवान करो जी वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह So as we're all know, I hope you're having a good time so far and it's been a very very lovely vibe, family vibe. And thank you to those of you so far that have just jumped in where the seva is needed. It's been very, very much appreciated. So the second talk, discussion of the camp, which is on the theme of Sangat. And as you'll be aware, the theme, Pankti, is Mere Madhoji Sat Sangat Mere Sutarya. So Sad Sangat Kirpa Naal, or Sad Sangat Karki Banda Tar Janda, who is truly saved with the Sad Sangat. And we're going to look at different types of Sangat, and also what Sangat means. And to be honest, most of this is just going to be personal experiences of Sangat I've had in my life, how it's affected me, and hopefully it can inspire you to find similar Sangat, and also kind of how I got into Sangat, as well as obviously, most importantly, what Gurbani says about the topic. So, what does Sangat mean? Anyone? What does Sangat mean? What does it mean to you?
Is it the company you keep?
Yeah, generally, it's people you keep around you, right? Thank you, Paji. What kind of Sangats are there? Kusangat, yes. When you have a kakkanu onkar, ku, generally in Punjabi or Gurbani Vyakaran, which is grammar, if you have kakka and an onkar or a kakka before a word, it negates the following word. So if Sangat is the company you keep, Kusangat is negative or bad Sangat, right? Any other Sangat? Sad Sangat, yeah? The Sangat of the sadhus, those people that have conquered their minds and have connected to WhyGuru. And I quite like this, it's not really a meme, what is it? It's quite a picture, right? Your vibe attracts your tribe, and also your tribe attracts your vibe, vice versa. So the people you keep around you are definitely going to have an effect on you in many ways than we actually think is possible. And a lot of that happens subconsciously. Now, we've got Prito Mami here. She's rustling up some food in the kitchen. What's going on? What comes to your mind when you think of Prito making some curry or whatever it is? Okay. What happens when she's cooking in that room? Smells, right? Hands up if you've been in that position. See the effects. Hands up if you've been in a position where you're about to go out, meet your friends, and boom. Torka attacks, right? And you take your new Gucci jacket off wherever it is, you protect it with all your life, and you have the spray ready, and you just run through the kitchen. Huh? What happens to that torka? Sticks to you. Do you see the torka? Do you even have the chance to say, sorry torka, bas 5 minute de do sanu? You don't, right? It sticks to you whether you like it or not because you've entered that room in which torka is being made. In the exact same way, Bhai Gurdash describes the effect of Sangat. And Bhai Gurdash says that Vadiya Kajal Kathori Mahikal Ka Pariya. Vadiya means to enter. Kathori is a room. Kajal is soot or dust or anything you can take synonymously there. Mohikal Kapariya. If you go into a room full of soot, your face is going to be blackened whether you like it or not. In the same way, if we go into a room full of sadhus or gursikhs, we'll have that effect on us as well. If we go into a room full of negative energy, and I bet all of you have been in the position where you just go into a room and you just feel something's messed up, or someone just had an argument, or something's really awkward, right? And you're like, I'm going to turn back around. In the same way, you might walk into a room and it's buzzing, and you think, I'm going to stay here. There's something subconscious, something out of our senses that is going on. In the same way with Sangat, there's a massive effect, and although we might not get our faces blackened, you can say on the inside, we're being blackened, or we're blossoming, depending on where we're going. So it's very, very important to realize there's more going on compared to what our ears hear or our eyes see. And again, the company you see, Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj says that Sukhiye kaupe khe sab sukhiya, roge ke paane sab rogi. That person that's happy or is positive or is in chardi kala, whatever they look at, ohi chardi kala hona. The world could be falling apart, but fir bhi Guru di kirpa hai. You could have the most negative person and their life could be going amazingly, they'll still complain. Now what I'm not saying is cut these people out of your life. What I'm saying is be conscious of them. And by all means try and help people. But at some point, Guru Sahib ne kiya, "Murikh hai naal na rujiye." Do not argue with fools. You have to decide at what point you want to associate and maybe help people, and at what point that's draining your own Sikhi. On the other side, anywhere you find Gurmukhs or Sadh Sangat or positive people, don't even have to be the Khalsa in that sense. Khalsa is the best company. But I know I have loads of great friends, a lot of Gori that are just wicked people. And I do vichar with them about God and all these just, general gun. Find those people and hold them close. So what type of Sangat should we look for? What's the definition given to us by Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj? That Nicha andar neech jaat, nichi hu at neech, Nanak tenka sang saath, vadya sio kyaris. So find the lowest of the low people. Find the people that do not walk around with a big head, that do not claim themselves to be the greatest people, the ones that keep themselves humble and stay low. Another Sangat karo, vadya sio kyaris. What's the point of trying to copy people that call themselves vadde? Because they themselves are not happy. Might look or it might be a very temporary happiness, but bananani. And here we have an epitome of that, Bhagat Puran Singh Ji, Bingalaware, who literally went around and found the lowest of the low people and would do their seva. Those people that had been left in Punjab, in India, thrown out from their homes because of a disability or even for the fact of their gender being a girl, and created a sanctuary for them and looked after them his whole life. And it's important to understand, although they may look quite physically poor in that sense, they were oozing with Sikhi, and also they were very educated. They published a newspaper and did a lot of work within Punjab regarding climate change and also greenery. Jithe need Somalian, tithe nazar teri bakhsis. Jithe nicha da seva hundi a, uthe Guru Sahib di kirpa hundi. Guru Sahib says, wherever the lowest people are being looked after, uthe nazar teri bakhsis. You get the darshan, you get the glimpse of blessings from Guru Sahib. Now, as such say, don't just look after kind of poor people. Obviously, the Khalsa in itself, but the Khalsa are neat in that sense because they remain humble. So any person of good gun, if you're doing their seva, it's even better. So what is Sadh, Sas, Sat, Sangat? There are 4 types of Sangat. There's normal Sangat, Sadh Sangat, Sat Sangat and Kusangat. And there's slight variations. We're not going to get into the technicalities of Sadh and Sat, but in essence, this is the holy company if you want. So Guru Sahib says, what's the nishani? How do we recognize when I'm actually in that vicinity? Sat Sangat kaisi janiya, jithe eko naam vakhaniya. So wherever the one name of Vaheguru and no one else is being spoken of, uthei Sadh Sangat wal janda. Just like at a camp or with your family, with your friends, it could be anywhere. Paire sukh Sadh Sangat paya. True sukh is going to be found within this Sangat. And again, Sadh Sangat hoye nirmala katiya jam ki fasi. Jamma di jere fasya, the noose around your neck, and also the dukh of being captured by the angels of death, wo kat janda by being in the Sadh Sangat, as we've heard with the theme Pankti. So I'm just going to share a few episodes from my life and how it's affected me. I've been very, very blessed. And again, this isn't my own upama, but I've had amazing opportunities, and I want to share that with you guys to show what's available out in this world, and also what will happen as a result of being with these people, right? So after university, I was very blessed to take a year out of education, life, if you want, and I stayed in India for a while in Moga, a place called Jogiwal, which is a Tuksal branch of Damdami Tuksal. And there's a Mahaprabhu there, Sant Baba Baldev Singh Ji, and they were in the Jatha at the time of Sant Guru Bachan Singh Ji and learnt directly of Sant Baba Mohan Singh Ji, Pindarawali. So they're very, very blessed Gursikh, and they kind of run a Gurdwara in which Santhya is taught to around 50, 60 Singhs. They go on to become parties and go all over the world basically. So I got a chance to stay in the Dera, and I learned a lot of things just while staying there. I'll talk about my experience a little bit, and also the importance of having such experiences as well. So the first thing is the importance of having elder Gursikhs around you, whether that's a Mahaprabhu, whether it's just a trusted Gursikh, someone that is walking the path, is very important. And I know for those of you in the Gurdwara workshop yesterday, we talked about kind of elders in the committees, right? But even then, although they might not be fully practicing Sikhi, there's still a lot of gun we can take from them, the dedication. But when you have that wisdom mixed with Sikhi, it's unstoppable. And that's what you'll find from these elder Gursikhs, whether it is a Mahaprabhu or someone just trusted within the Sangat. And it's very important because they have life experience and they've got years of Kamai behind them. So find their Sangat and just watch, observe what they do, and the effects will be tenfold. So one thing about Babaji I picked up is that they didn't speak much, but when they did, they were always very, very welcoming. And Babaji would have a time frame. They used to do ardases for a lot of people, because a lot of people would come for them to do ardas, because they were such a Gurmukh that quite often whatever ardas they did, they came true, right? So they would have a time slot every day, pakka, from 12 to 4 p.m. or something along those lines, where the Sangat could come. And although they literally get called all over the world, they've been to England as well, they would make sure whilst they were in Punjab, that time frame was never messed with, because the Sangat came first. And that's not their upama. They just understood that they had a chance to connect people with Sikhi, and they were acting as a medium. So their dedication is unparalleled. That's one thing I took from Babaji as well. I got to learn about Rani Berni. Rani Berni basically means how you act and how you stay as a Khalsa, the way you should, your mannerisms if you like. And I learned a lot. Bala Bolanani, I know I speak way too much as it is. But generally, not talk too much. Keep yourself to yourself. Be welcoming. Give a helping hand. Don't wait for someone to tell you to do a seva. If you see something, just go and do it. And by staying there, I just saw things just jumping in everywhere. And things worked like clockwork because everyone had the same mentality. And that was a very big thing for me whilst staying there. And also, Paat Kidra Karna, how to wash your kashira, what to do with your case. Learn all these little tricks. So when I was there, I was combing my case and a Singh said, you should put a kapra down on the bed so that you can see your case when you pick it up. All these little things, micro things, that you only learn by staying in the company of Gursikhs, and that can be translated to your room at camp as well, right? You'll learn all these little things. And if you're unsure, ask. I did these guys' head in, right? I was asking so many questions. And you learn a bit of Boli as well, Khalsa Boli. So I'll tell you a funny story. So when I was there, obviously, before you do your Sanktya, the daily plan would be, you wake up about 4 o'clock at the latest, have Ishnan, go into the Darbar Sahib for Ardas, your Nitnem Ardas. It's played on the speakers. And then you'd have Jabani, and then you have your first setting of Santhya for about an hour and a half. Then you'd have a breakfast, another Santhya, then you'd have break, then Santhya again, then break, do whatever you need to, wash your hair, have a wash, eat or whatever, and then Langar, Raras, sleep, right? And Seva in the day, everyone have a Seva. And obviously before you do a Santhya, or once you've had a poo-poo basically, you need to have a shower, right? And Yani ji, my ustad would say, Mandeep Singh, Maidanu gaya si. I don't know what Maidan meant. I just thought it meant he had a shower. I said, Hanji Yani ji, Maidanu gaya si, main naal si. I didn't say that, right? And he kept asking me, and I was like, what's this guy, what's wrong with this guy, right? I've been to the shower, stop asking me. And he kept asking me. Then the Singhs would start asking me. I was like, Mandeep Singh, Maidanu gaya si? I was like, Hanji gaya si. And it took me about 2 weeks to realize Maidan actually means battlefield. But what it actually means is, and I kept telling these guys, yo, I've been for a shower, leave me alone, right? And then when they told me what Maidan meant, I was like, oh, okay, that's quite funny. So they're thinking this Ganda guy just goes to the toilet all the time, doesn't have a shower, right? So you learn all these things. You learn Khalsa Boli, there's loads of things. Like a Surma Singh means a Singh without any vision. But even then, they call him a Surma because he's fearless, because he has no vision. And you know that sense of Tardigla becomes instilled with you right from the offset. We don't have those things here, right? Even that, I'm going to the toilet, I'm going to Maidan. It's quite cool, right? You have all these funny things, and the vibe is just high all the time. And again, in these places, and what I'm not saying is you have to go to a Taksal. If you can, great, but generally in Sangat, right? This also applies to a camp or whatever. You learn about experience. You see other people doing seva, you may never have seen. You see other people talking about other things you may never have done. You may never have had a conversation with people in which someone's talking about itihas. That might be totally alien to you. But when you interact with these kind of people, this becomes the normality. And the waffle about football or what's Gursimran's favourite program? Made in Chelsea. Or Pishi Har Zindi. Slowly, your habit starts to develop and change. But that requires effort and meeting these people. I'll tell you a personal story about one Gurmukh that actually had a massive impact on me. His name is Bhai Mandeep Singh. And when I was there, I was very, very anxious. Obviously, I don't know what the hell was going on. Masi Punjabi on DC, and there's all these things, very serious. And I went to my room that night, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, why am I here, right? What's going on? I should have just gone to uni, whatever. And one thing that just melted my heart is such a small thing. But Bhai Mandeep Singh, this guy here, he's him as well. He is my ustad, so he taught me Sangat. We were the same age. What he did on the first night, he made me a banana milkshake and brought it to my room as a welcome. And that just settled me so much. But you'd be surprised how much the little things make a difference. And he's an ustad there, right? And he's one of the most humblest guys I've met. So he would teach me Sangat, and every day he would go and clean all the Singh's toilets. So basically, when I went, I didn't know what the facilities were going to be like. So my mum packed bare cleaning stuff, right? I had like 3 tittiyan. And then he saw it, he was like, oh, Boba diya mele glove mele gaye. He's like, I took like, you know the bottles you get where the foam comes out? They're like, the kamal di cheez hai. They're like, single dekho. They just had sabban, right? It was so funny. But that's the kind of Gurmukhs you meet in these kind of places, right? You know, the amount of Bani he has gone to, I don't even want to know, right? He's done his Maharaj Sangat 4 or 5 times. He's learning Dasam Bani, he's learning Katha. But every day, when no one's looking, and I peeked and saw him, he'd be washing all the showers and all the toilets of the Singhs. So it's very important to have these people around. So he was my ustad, and Nirvair Singh, he also looked after me a lot as well. There's one late night conversation. So I stayed there for about 4 or 5 months. And again, this is something that sticks close to me with what he said. And Gyani Harpreet Singh was the actual main teacher. He's the Gyani Sahib there. Amazing Gurmukh. But at the same time, we all make mistakes, right? And we all have flaws. So it was getting quite late. And because it was the last night, we were in Gyaniji's room. And we were just chilling, talking. And it must have got to about 11:30. And Bhai Mandeep Singh was just quiet, right? Because he wanted to go to bed and get up in the morning. And Gyani ji, we were just chilling. And then Bhai Mandeep Singh ne kiya, chalo, chutti kar liye. And then obviously, Gyani ji got a bit annoyed that it's come from Bhai Mandeep Singh. He's like, he's kind of doing my bestie a little bit. He's like, ki karna, sona. He goes, baya, kuch nahi hunda. And Bhai Mandeep Singh just stayed quiet. And then we chilled for about half an hour, we went. And then Bhai Mandeep Singh said to me, he goes, Mandeep Singh, saran de vich gun ta avgun bhi hunde a. But assi gun leke chal jana, avgun utthe rehendna. So he goes, everyone has goods and bads within them. If you see any bads, just leave them there. Whatever good they have, grab them and hold them tight. And that's the kind of Gurmukh he was. He didn't get angry at Gyani or anything. He was still their elder. But these little nuggets, you can't read in books. They won't be on YouTube videos. You have to go and experience these things. And that's something that I've tried to implement in my life the best I can as well. Little things like, a lot of maryada that we're losing, unfortunately, is even like, how many of you have invited Panj Singh over for prashada ever in your life? That's crazy, right? I bet if you ask your parents, a lot of your parents would have done it. So maryada hunda si, if you basically, just generally, like if someone had a ardas or a carriage, you would invite 5 Singhs over from the Gurudwara, respected Singhs, Panj Pyare, in the form of Guru Gobind Singh Ji and Vartad and Prashada, and they do ardas for you or whatever, and you give them pirta. So I actually got to experience, I went with Baba Baldev Singh Ji to a Panj Singh Prashada, and just little things like, how to do Singh Seva, Singhniya Seva, wash their Charanji, come in, give a bhatta so they wash their hands. If you're part of the Panj Singh, how do you act, what do you do, what ardas do you say after you've had langar, all these little things you learn in these places, and it's very, very, very valuable things because we have to sambal these things in order to teach our children, right? So it's really important. And again, this stuff, for me to have this opportunity, it did not come at once. So I came at Case when I was about 16, and I started learning Sangat then as well. So I went here when I was about 21. what ended up happening was I learnt Santya from someone that was recommended, Bhai Mandeep Singh in Birmingham. Learnt from them for about 2-3 years, and then I just asked them the question like, is there any way I can go in India? And he's like, yeah, here's the number. But what I'm saying is these opportunities only come once your foot is in the door a little bit. A lot of people just expect, I want to, why isn't everything happening for me at once? Quite often, galni bandi. As you get into Sangat, your network starts to grow, and Guru Sahib's khushi grows as well, right? And they'll put things in front of you. What I'm saying is, don't see this and think, oh man, that's never going to happen for me. Of course it will. Whatever needs to happen for you will happen for you. If you put the uddam in, if you put yourself in spaces where there's other Gurmukhs, and you make the most of the opportunities you have. Guru Sahib, whatever they need to put in front of you, they will. Now, if we look back to history, and the Sangat of Gursikhs, and in particular elders, anyone know who these two are? Yes, yeah, both. One is, so sometimes the pictures get a bit mixed up. From my understanding, this is Nawab Kapoor Singh, who was basically the one that started the Raj back after the persecution era from 1716 to 1733. You know that times where we hear Singhs were in the jungles and there was 80 rupees on our heads. Zakaria Khan, as a truce, gave Nawabi to Nawab Kapoor Singh. Not that he was anyone to give it, but that's where it came from. My point being here is that Jassa Singh Ji Ahluwalia was sent by, I believe, Mata Sundari Ji to Nawab Kapoor Singh to go and learn from him. So he was initially in Delhi, and because he had a Delhi accent, he would quite often get teased, and they used to call him Hamko Tumki, because that's how people from Delhi speak, right? And all those things would just rinse him. And he actually came crying to Nawab Kapoor Singh one day, and said, Mani Rana. And at that point, Nawab Kapoor Singh gave him a haunsla and took him under his wing. Now this is the Jathedar of the whole Panth, the whole Khalsa Panth. And Nawab Kapoor Singh trained Jassa Singh Ji Ahluwalia themselves. And at the age of 53, Nawab Kapoor Singh gave the Jathedari to Nawab Kapoor Singh, Jassa Singh Ji Ahluwalia, who was only 33 years old. So by having those Gursikhs around you, you learn from them. But also, how Satkaryog, how great Nawab Kapoor Singh was to give up the Jathedari and pass the legacy on as well at the age of 53. And we talked about this yesterday in terms of Gurdwara committees. If you get in at 53, you're doing pretty well, right? Let alone pass it on. So what I'm saying is as well, those that are in a weird way positions of influence in Sangat, you should understand your Jummevari as well to pass things on when the time comes. And then Jassa Singh Ji Ahluwalia, these two Gurmukhs paved the path for Maharaj Ranjit Singh Ji's kingdom. And Ato Bina, Maharaj Ranjit Singh Ji wouldn't have happened. Because they created the missiles that led to the Sukar Chakya missile, from which Charat Singh, who was Maharaj Ranjit Singh Ji's grandfather, was the head of. So you see, if they did not do Sangat of each other, who knows what our history would have been of. You see how deep it runs. So who was Nawab Kapoor Singh and what kind of precedent did they set? And this is important for us to understand our part we play in the Sangat, because the more Sikhi we have behind us, the more powerful the Sangat becomes, right? Not that we are of any value, but in terms of our own kamai. And Nawab Kapoor Singh shows that a leader truly leads. So what happened was Nawab Kapoor Singh's seva was Kore di lid chakni, to pick up the poo of the Kore. So what happens was, it comes from Zakaria Khan that we want a peace now, we want a truce. Choose a leader so that we can discuss things, right? And there's already Panj Singh there, but the Panj Singh said, we need to choose someone that has the best qualities. Nawab Kapoor Singh was in no leadership position, and they all nominated him. And he said, Main nahi karna. He goes, I'm not doing it. And then only because the Panj Singh did a ardas and a benti, he said, I'll do it, but on one condition, leave my seva alone, let me continue the seva. So you're only going to watch Nawab ban gaya, aur seva rehn diyo. So it's important as we grow within Sangats, remember that the example we set is paramount. And this is what we have to live up to. And look at where it led them as well. We have more recent examples of Singhs doing Sangat of great Gurmukhs by Fauja Singh Ji Shaheed, who was Shaheed in 1978 in the Nirankari attack in Amritsar. And I won't go into their life too much, but they, in essence, raised a farm in which Singhs would come and train and do Sangat and basically have a camp. and inspired many, many things, in particular from the Akhand Kirtani Jatha and also from the Babar Khalsa organization that gave a lot of Shahidiya Qurbani and did a lot of seva for the Panth in upcoming years, and that was because of their din. And we talked about the effects of good Sangat so far, so let's think about bad Sangat or Kusangat, as we've mentioned earlier. If I say to you guys, what comes to your mind, or what qualities do you see in the Sangat of people we shouldn't keep? What would you keep an eye out for? What are your kind of your triggers? Hanji buddy.
So there can be habits such as India, Chugli, or basically complainers, always complaining, always negative mindset.
Hanji, in terms of a negative mindset, obviously someone's complaining because they need to make a complaint. I don't want to hear it. But generally, the whingers, and also Nindya Chugli, that just basically means speaking bad of someone or doing irka, what's the English word for it? Slandering, right? And there's a difference between saying something because you need to say it and chugli. I think quite often, this isn't sexist, but I'll just say it, like we do a bit of a benji. Like we say, oh man, karna, because you might get offended and all this sort of stuff. There's room to give criticisms, and you should do. You should say it in the right way, and we shouldn't get offended if someone calls us upon something, right? In a positive frame, because they're just only trying to better us. Do not be afraid to do that. We should be doing that. The problem is when I'm just talking about Sukhdeep Singh for no sake of it, and just and I'm just villa, and I'm just saying, you're not Sukhdeep Singh, man. Makes too many jokes, not even funny, thinks it's so funny. And I'm just chatting crap about him. That's in India, that's Chugli, right? So important to distinguish the two, focusing on the latter, in which people are slandering other people, gossiping, aunties love that kind of stuff. Future aunties, be aware. Khayal na. You got a big jumewari, you need to sort that out. I'm messing. Uncle bhi karde hunde. That's one nishani. Oh yeah, bit aggressive. What other nishanis, what other signs of Sangat we should stay away from? Hanji Benji. It's an interesting one. What are your thoughts on if someone drinks alcohol, should we stay away from them? So now we've distinguish between someone that drinks and an environment where drinking is happening. And I think that's the nail on the head. Babaji, you going to say something? Yeah, that's a wicked point. So Babaji said that if someone's drinking, if they change as a result, and they get angry, some people get angry, some people just change, right? Then definitely stay away. My personal point and what myself and my wife do is, like, for example, all my cousins drink, my brothers drink, but I still go over and have a wicked time with them. But there's an agreement, and I know this doesn't work in every family because families are different, but we're very lucky in the sense that our family is very supportive. So if we're coming over, they won't have any shara about. And if it's someone's wedding, and we say, look, we're not going to go to the wedding party, they're understanding. And I know that's not the case with everyone, but I will still show the same love. Our last day hal chal. But we have agreed, and this is only recently. Normally, I would go to a wedding party, and there might be sharab on the table, but I would just keep my own thing. But I'm now starting to realize the effect that would have on me. The Garne that are happening, Lock 28 and all this other guns that's happening. It's funny, but if you think about what he's saying in that song, it's disgusting. And then you have Mammi, Chachi, brothers throwing money over this. It's actually disgusting. Now, you might not even know what's going on in that song, but subconsciously, even the vibrations of that song will mess you up. And I'm going to talk about university in a second as well. But so my position, our position is that we love and care for all of our family. But where it's going to jeopardize our Sikhi, we try our best to stay away. And that doesn't always work. So what we did for one of my cousin's wedding was, they had a tent up and there's meat sharab. We went for about 20 minutes and then just said, so we're going to go now. Because the last thing you want to do as well, it's very personal, this is, by the way. But the last thing we want to do is offend people. But at the same time, if they're not accepting of you, then if they're offended, who cares? Because that's their problem, right? We're trying to compromise. So I would say work out your own situation, but do not compromise your own Sikhi. That's really important. I hope that makes sense. That's just where we're at with it. If anyone has any handy buddy. The first thing is samahunda. There's a way of saying things, and sometimes you need to say something, sometimes you don't. For example, Jabnam Singh, he said that line to me, right? Take the good things from people, leave the bad things. If he wanted to, he could be like, who was I need you to say all that. Do you see the way the tariqah, he said it to me? That's really important. And the tariqah, we should say things, is to minimize the effects. The second thing I would say with regards to someone venting, sometimes people just need to offload, and that's fine. Now, depending on where you are, sometimes you can control how much of the conversation we take away with us. Sometimes you can't because it'll be in our heads. I would say at that point as well, depending on the situation, depending on who it is, you might be the only person they can vent to. And you know what? If it's someone you love, you might just say, you might just have to hit. But if it's not, you might just say, look, I appreciate you need to offload, but I'm not in a position where I can actually take this on at the moment. So I'm afraid I don't really want to go into this at this moment in time. And see if you can come back to it. It's a very, very it's a very hard balance of protecting yourself, but at the same time being there for someone. I think that's a line you have to make yourself. Hanji Mandeep Andi. Very important. So yeah, in addition, Benji was saying, there's one thing listening, there's one thing kind of adding to it. And that's stuff, again, living with Gurmukhs, you learn these things, how to speak to some people, and how to listen and what to say, when not to say things, right? Alamjit Handi? Yeah, if you have the capability of actually transforming the conversation into something positive, that's brilliant, right? That'd be the ideal situation. Hanji Pajili. Yeah, and I think at that point, just do it out of ask for them.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you can't do anything else, you can do it out of do it Japji Sahib, do it Chaupe Sahib. And if you start complaining about the small things, they'll grow into the big things. If you're jaldi about the small things, when the big obstacles arrive, you'll be jaldi about that as well. Hanji Lasti? Hanji. Yeah, and I think there's also a Jummewari as well. When you become a Singh or a Singhani, that a lot of people won't know what's going to happen with you, and you can be their first impression of Sikhi. So, for example, there's a kid at school. We have a Sikh society at school with Guru Sahib Kirpa. There's one Singh in year 8, year 9 now. He just got mad over Sikhi, right? And he's keeping his gears and everything, and his parents are quite against it. And one thing I keep saying to you is, never argue with your parents. If they see the benefit Sikhi is having on you, they will endorse it. That's really important. I think it's a long game, but it's the right game. And quite often the parents think, what? He doesn't swear anymore, he doesn't speak back to me anymore, he doesn't come back late or whatever, right? If they see the transformation rather than you talking about it, that's how most of the battle won. And the same way, even with my cousins and stuff, when they were like, can we speak to you at this time? Where can we meet? What happens? Quite often, you have to facilitate that for them, and they learn about Sikhi, so it's a massive, massive Jummewari. Hanji. Kusangat bahasadas dukh pavah dukho dukh kamaya. By sitting in the sangat of those negative people, dukhi prana, quite simply. And then Bhagat Ravidas actually talks about the effects of nindya. Kara nind kavana nahi guna. So there's a whole shabad there's loads of shabads about nindya, but in particular that shabad talks about ninda karke ahunda, nindya karke ahunda. Here Guru Bhagat Ravidas says that kavana nahi guna. You'll never end up with any gun, and nothing will be of worthwhile by doing nindya. And in Sukhmani Sahib we have loads of parts where we talk about nindya of Mahapurukhs or Gurmukhs, and the serious consequences that result that come as a result. Obviously we have university, which is quite a big thing, and a lot of you might be going through, and the intimidation you get from Kusangat. And quite often, especially university is probably the easiest example where, I've seen loads of Gurmukhs, loads of Kiyastari or someone along the path and it is very hard, right? Imagine you're at a new university, everyone's going clubbing Freshers Week, you've got nothing to do. It's either you be lonely for the next 2-3 months or you just see what it's about. At that point, if you have nothing to fall back on, that's your only option. But if you've already got Kirtan, if you've already got a local Sangat network, then you can go anywhere in the world, you'll be alright. Because Panth sare paase vasda. So that's why it's really important for our children, we make sure they never have to worry about these things like we have to worry about these things. You know? Because if they go to Newcastle, they go to Birmingham, they go to London, we are in touch with Sangat there, they're aware of Sangat there, and 90% of the university campus could be going to a Freshers Week, but it's alright because they know there's a weekly katha happening somewhere. You know? It's really, really important. I'll also say about Sikh societies as well. So establishing Sangats and making it fruitful for many, many generations to come. And you see this with other faith groups. Musliman are great at this. Musliman are amazing at this. Wherever they go, they've got people around them. Jithe marji. And the prem they have with each other, they'll just find people straight away. Jewish people are great at this as well. You know? Why, Maharaj Kripa, we're not too bad to be fair, but we can still do better. You know? And as I said, for example, going clubbing or any of these things, quite often I used to have debates with people at school, university. At university, that's where I kind of got into Sikhi because of Sikh society and took Amrit after a year. One of my friends is like, he's a Singh, but he's like, I'm just going to have a good time. I'm not going to do anything bad. Main peena nahi question. Main just bhangra karke aaya na. I was like, I got nothing against bhangra. I got something against the songs, but dancing, jo marji kar lo na. The problem is that when you're in that environment, just being honest with you, if you see a half-dressed woman and she walks in front of you, you can't stop that. That's in your mind now. Or same with a banda with his top buttons undone, right, showing some hair chest or whatever it is. You can't stop that. No matter what you do, you're in that environment, so you're going to be prone to it. The sharab, the vibrations, the smoke, whatever it is, you are in that situation. Unless you're going to walk around with your eyes closed and your ears like this, then there's no point in you going, right? You can do whatever you want, no matter how great you think you are. Anyone that says, I'm only going for a good time, I'm not going to worry about the other things, they're fools. Because they haven't understood that they're not in control of what their senses are picking up. And then in the morning when you're trying to do Japji Sahib, you're going to have 50 Cent in the club banging in your head, yeah? Gal nahi banani. You see what I mean? I know we've all been in that situation where, songs are very, very dangerous in that sense. And I would be very, very careful with what you listen to. I listen to some other songs, but even Tupac's got a bit of gun in some of the things he says, right? But then you have to kind of filter out the other half of the song, so it's like, Ganda baya. So what I'm saying is it's not as black as, well, I'm never going to listen to songs again because I'm in Sikhi. There's loads of cool songs about like actual stories or people's journeys and stuff, right? There's a lot of things. So focus on what you do. Don't just listen to what standard MTV is and all the gand on there. The main message of that was, don't think that you're immune to your surroundings, because you're not. And Gurbani tells us that. Only a sadhu, the one that has conquered their senses, is, and a sadhu wouldn't go in that place in the first place, because they know they can fall at any time as well. What does Gurbani say about Sangat? Sad Sangat Jamdoot na Petan. So by being in the Sad Sangat, the Jamdoot, the messengers of death, do never touch you. And there's a Sakhi about Sohela Sahib. We hear Ana ha Ana tu Anha Shota hai Nikar na jaiye hudud. So the Sakhi, very briefly about that is, and this reflects this point, is that there was quite a lazy person in a pind that would never go to the Gurdwara, just sit on his couch all day. And what happened was there was a Nagar Kirtan, and they're a bit different to how they happen now. When Nagar Kirtans happen, everyone would like properly sing Kirtan. I know at the front normally it's just the Palki side now. But because of that Sangat going past his house, his door was open, and the tour of the Sangat, again, the blessings from the Sangat's feet came into his house and blessed him. His time came to die, and Dharam Raj was looking at his lekha, and I said, he's had the Sangat's tour on him. So, we can't put him into Narak. He's got a bit of time in Sachkhand because of this. He's, result, like, this is good. So what happened was, the Jamdoots were like, okay, Jal, we have to, this is how it works. We have to let him go into Sachkhand heaven for a little bit. He went in, he's like, this is wicked. And then the Jamdoots can't allow to go in, so they're waiting by the door, and he's like, I'm not leaving now. I'm chilling. I'm not leaving this place. And then the Jamdoots are like, your time's up, aja. But they can't go in. So then they go to Dharam Raj and say, what do we do? And at that point, Dharam Raj says, Ana ho, Ana tu, and Hashota hai, Nikrna jayi hodut. We're not allowed in that place. So such is the power of the Sad Sangat. Ek Sikh, doi Sad Sang, Panji Parameshwar. So Bhai Gurdas Ji says that one Sikh on their own is a Sikh, right? One Gurmukh. Two people together are Sad Sangat. Three together, five together, Panji Parmeshwar, WhyGuru da Rupiya. That's why we have Panj Singh. So having five Gurmukhs together is an amazing thing. And there's a great picture of Sant Kartar Singh Ji, some other great Guru Sikhs doing Panj Pyari Di Seva. I'll just explain a personal call and then we'll start rounding up. Seetal Penji will remember this actually, and Simran Penji. They invited me to a camp in Manchester, and I got a bit lazy, it's Sunday morning, and I thought, Nitnem gaddi kar lungi. I'll just do it in the car, right? I was like, I'll get an extra hour of sleep. So I had ishnan, got everything ready, jumped in the car, and I jumped on the M6, so it was about 7 o'clock. It was empty. I just finished my Japji Sahib, I'm banging it like 70 miles an hour. It's not really banging it, but normal 70 miles an hour. And I think it's 75. I was in the middle lane, and as soon as my Japji Sahib finished and I read Slok, the car started juttering, mad, and I just I couldn't really register what was happening. And the next thing you know, the back tire popped whilst I was doing 70 miles an hour, and the airbag came out and I blacked out. And the car was spun, so imagine this is the middle lane. Do it this way. This is the middle lane. There's the right lane, which is the overtaking lane. The left lane is slow lane. This is the barrier. So the car spun, it smacked the barrier, and then it spun back into the middle lane. And all I remember is in the middle of it, it was a bit of a knee-jerk reaction. I had no control over it. Or Guru Sahib di Kirpasi. I remember in the midst, I remember spinning, and I just shouted WhyGuru. And then I remember someone just dragging me out of the car, and I was like, what's that has happened, right? My point being, and then my dad came, and my dad was quite chill about it, to be fair. And then the doctors came, and the paramedics came, they dragged me, and they're like touching me, and they put me in a stretcher. I'm like, relax, right? He's not touching me. I was in my chola and stuff, everything, I swear. And they were like, how's your neck? Can you move your neck? I'm like, I'm fine. I had no idea what had happened at this point. And then at that point, they were like checking my back and stuff. And I'm like, honestly, just leave me alone. Right? I just need to find my phone or something. And they were like, we've never seen anyone in an accident this big that hasn't like broken their back or something. I was fine. Not one bone. I didn't even pull a muscle. I was fine. What I'm saying is two things. Always do your Nitnem before you leave home, because I could have died that day having not done my Nitnem. Second thing is the power of Japji Sahib. Third thing was I was on the way to the camp. Sad Sangat karan jalle si. So Maharaj ne ape bacha liya. Now a lot of people, as Babaji said, negative positives. Not one point did I care about the car. Even my dad goes, "Chal, gaddi to hor la sakde. Tu bach ho gaya na." So in my sense, a lot of people would think, and a lot of people question, say, "You want to go there and this happened?" Oh, like, oh, ki money, chalda nahi Sikhi, whatever, right? Then I said, look, there's obviously something that I had to pay off. Maybe I was meant to break my leg. Maybe I was meant to break my neck. Maharaj ne unnu chota karta and just said, "Chal, gaddi nami lali." So these are just personal things from my life that hopefully help you connect to Sikhi as well. And that was quite a big thing for me, I remember. So make sure you do your Nitnem before you leave the house. How do you break away from Kusangat? First thing is being mindful. If you're not mindful of what Ninda is, you'll just be submerged in it and you won't know. If you're not mindful of the effects alcohol or even just being around that kind of stuff can be, you'll be like, "Chalda." So first thing is being conscious of it. The way to overcome any problem is being conscious of it. Secondly, think about how it makes you feel after. A lot of you feel quite drained, negative. A lot of us at the camp here, we only slept 2-3 hours, but we're all buzzing, right? And you're like, "Pandya di seva, let's go," or whatever it is. And then always judge something towards what Guru Sahib is saying. And Bhai Gurjit Singh Ji, someone asked him, is a great Gurmukh from Sikh Inspire at camp, and I was there, I remember. Someone said to him, like, where do you know where we should go out to eat and drink and stuff? Like, should we go to pubs and stuff? And he said something quite simple. He goes, if you're questioning it, you shouldn't be going. Quite simply, if you got shanka about it, then you probably should be going. That's not me telling you where to eat. But if you're doubting the thing in the first place, there's already enough in there to tell you, I probably shouldn't be here. And we should be very conscious of whose food we're eating, where we're eating from. You don't know, the cook could have smoked. The cook could be doing Nindya whilst they're making your food. And then you're going to take that on as well. So be very, very conscious about it. Seva. If you find seva, if you've got a problem, you can find something to counter it. The problem will fizzle away. Jump into seva. I mentioned yesterday, I think, with the committee guys. You know, it started off just like there's a Punjabi school, and we just started like a 15-minute Sikhi class after. It grew, and then we did an hour, and then like there was seva at local camps, and then that grew, and then Maharaj Kirpa went to the Vidyalaya, went to India. The point being is, if you want something to counteract the bad things, find something good that will do it. And as that grows, the problems will become smaller. And I've talked about balance, especially with your family as well. The main thing is an ardas. So your ardas is the best thing you'll get, 100%. If you do ardas, Guru Sahib, Sangat Baksho, Seva Baksho, you do that every day with Sharda. And if you can't do it, Amrit Vela and Guru Sahib Hazuri, whether it's in a day, whether it's in 10 days, whether it's in 10 years, or whether it's in the next lifetime, it will be fulfilled, 100%. You just got to have faith, and you got to be in it long enough. And the thing is, we all come with our own baggage. So your ardas might become puri in a day, or it might take 10 years, whatever. But you got to stick at it. Now, what keeps us going through that time is reading at the house, is watching videos, is going to the Gurdwara, because that keeps us motivated to show us that Sikhi does work. It's worked for so many people. Look at how many attacks we've had on the Panth. There's, you know, very few groups of people that have survived what we survived and now to be flourishing. You know? There's very few people that can send 2 things into an army barrack, decapitate the general and bring it back alive. You know? Imagine the equivalent of that today. Imagine sending 2 British soldiers to the head of ISIS, to Afghanistan, taking their leader's head and then walking out alive. That's what Sukha Singh Batav Singh did. And that's because of the power of the Sangat they had. Babaji Singh Ji, Bhai Mandeep Singh Ji was their Sangat. You know? And as we mentioned, Gur Prasad, Parampad Baya, Suke Kaal Chaharya. Guruji's Kirpa, if you have Guru Sahib Khushiyan, you could be the most negative person, you could be the most boring, not boring is a bit sad, you could be the most lazy person, whatever it is, right? Guru Sahib will make you blossom however they want that tree to develop. And there's examples in Itihas. Guru Sahib transformed a cannibal called a Raksh and blessed them and transformed them into a saint. Guru Sahib blessed Madhu Das Bairagi, who was full of hankar and would torment people all the time. And then Guru Sahib didn't just forgive them, they transformed them to become surme, to become generals, and to become bhagats. Now hopefully no one here has people to eat. So no matter how bad you think you might be, Guru Sahib has given us loads of examples to show you, look, don't worry about it. Bring it to me, we'll sort it out. Last thing I'm going to finish off. One effect of Sangat. This is Shaheed Lakshman Singh Babbar. He was actually a Muslim, and his name was Bashir Muhammad, and he was sent by the Indian police to go and spy on some Gursikhs who, this is pre-1984, after 1984, where the Kharkul Lahar was happening, and there was an insurgency in Punjab, and there was a genocide taking place against the Sikh. Innocents were being taken and killed, and women raped, and all these things. So Bashir Muhammad actually grew his case and drew the star to try and infiltrate this group of freedom fighters, vigilantes. And what ended up happening, he was the bodyguard of DSP Sukhdev Chahal, there's a link there, and you can see the kind of atrocities he's done. He was his right man. He was sent by the people right at the top to go and find out and infiltrate this group. He would send reports weekly, whatever it was, and holy, because of their Sangat, he actually developed a lot of love from the Singhs because they just treated him as one of their own. And holy, the effect became so much that he experienced Amrit Vela, and that changed his life. And at that point, he couldn't do it anymore, and he told the Singhs the truth, and he actually ended up joining the Singhs, fighting against the police. So that's the effect of Sad Sangat. And he actually became Shaheed in Calcutta in 1993 after they tracked him down and shot through his door. And that was 20 years ago. So this is the effect of the Sad Sangat. And obviously we have Jugraj Singh, which I think none of us need an introduction to. He took one step. I remember hearing from the Singhs that at bus camp he took Amrit after it, and he didn't even know what Nitnem was. He didn't know he had to read 5 parts a day. He had that much Sharda, he just thought, this is for me. he's like, what, can I read 5 parts every day? Just shows we all have different paths, different lengths. But with Sangat, it doesn't matter where you are, Guru Sahib brings you up to scratch. And again, as I mentioned, kind of what I said to Guru Sahib is, Guru Sahib, you need to sort this out, right? Guru Sahib will sort everything out. You should leave it with them. And this is a shabad I repeat quite often. And what I would say to you guys is memorize a shabad or two. Keep them close. There's a saying, Bani kant, paise gant. If your Bani, WhyGuru, Bani bhi badhiya. If your Bani is kant, i.e. it's memorized, it's in your throat, your paise gant, you can use it. It's a currency. You can use it wherever you go, in the afterlife as well. This is one shabad I always say, that Janki Paz Swari Ab Har Har Naam Diyo Gur Avkad Udar Gyo Sab Taab Raho Har Gobind Rakhyo Parmesar Apni Kirpadar, so on, so on, so on. Angikar ki umar karta Gurpure ki badiyai ab chal neem tari Guru Nanak ne tera chara swai. There's loads, and also one of the first things I remembered is Kita Lodi Akam Sahar Pakhiya. Guru Sahib, protect me, and the other one is Kita Lodi Akam. Whatever task I have to do, to see aap karo. Learn a few shabads and use them daily. When you're about to do camp di tiyariya, Janki Paid Swari Ab Maharaj Kirpa Karo, that nothing goes wrong. And then we got the Hukamnama yesterday, Guru Sahib's like, don't worry, it will be right. Satgur Sikha Harat Palat Swara, that within this world and the next world, Guru Sahib, Saragur Swara, they arrange everything. And this is what we get from the Sad Sangat. Another one you can remember is for forgiveness. Asi khatte bahut kamavde, antana paravar, har kirpa karke bakshle homo papi var gunhagar. And lastly, so now the question is, what will your step be? And I read this yesterday. Charan Saragur ek penda jaye, chal sadgur koot peda aage hui leta hai. So your step could be Jore di seva, Pandya di seva, seva outside. Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj says the best seva you can do is of the Khalsa. That pleases them most, but we have other jobs to do as well, right? So you could do homeless seva, whatever it is. Definitely should be to learn Gurbani. Speak to Sukhjit Singh Ji or myself if you were actually starting to learn how to read Gurbani. Are there any last questions before we finish off? Otherwise, you're free to just come and speak to me at any point. If you have any questions, please do let me know. Anything urgent? Yeah, not just music. Like, explore page on Instagram is dangerous, man. The stuff that comes up on there is mad. And if you haven't watched it, I've watched this. What's it called? Social Dilemma on Netflix. It talks about how our attention is currency for social media networks, and how the data they use in order to get these things to pop up on our screens so that we keep our eyes glued. Social Dilemma on Netflix. If you haven't watched it, watch it. Hanji buddy. Hanji, that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, the shift should be what's okay for me to do, what will I get away with, rather what do I need to aim for. So that makes a lot of sense. I've never thought about it like that. Thank you, buddy. Bhul chuk maaf karna. Guru Sahib and the Sangat bless me with your sisa to do whatever Guru Sahib wants, and forgive for any mistakes. If you're offended by anything I said, maaf karna. If you're offended by any itihas or Gurbani, then tough luck. Siddhi gal. Vaheguru ji ka khalsa, Vaheguru ji ki fateh.
If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, share and subscribe. Please donate and help spread Guruji's message. Link is in the description below. Vaheguru ji ka khalsa, Vaheguru ji ki fateh.